Today we're going to teach you a few tricks on how to make your acrylic painting experience a little bit easier.
Are you ready?
When working with canvases, especially the ones you buy at the store, which are pre-stretched, we might run into an accident. Sometimes we might leave it resting on top of a pointy surface or something like that, right? And it might stretch the canvas and create like a little bump crease, but don't be discouraged. All you do is take your trusty little water bottle and you wet the back part of the canvas, just like so, right? And then with your hand, just make sure the water is nice and spread out. You can do it the whole canvas, which I like to do because other than fixing any imperfections, it makes it, stretch out when it dries up. It's nice and tight. Or you can do it just in the area where you see the bump, either one. And once it's nice and wet, just let it dry. Make sure it gets air on both sides. And, a few hours, should be nice and dry and ready to use. The next thing you're gonna want to do is to prime your canvas. Why do we prime the canvas? Well, there's several reasons. The first reason would be to seal, protect the surface, and make it smoother to apply the acrylics. Also, it makes it bind to the canvas a little bit better. The other thing you like it for is to make it stand out the colors and make the surface a little bit, more resistant. What we like to use for priming is gesso. You can get gesso at any art supply store. It's a polymer made with acrylics and some fillers like sometimes chalk and glue, and it's going to help you paint a lot smoother. So Maya's going to show you how you do it. Basically, you take the gesso with your palette knife if you want. You apply it to the canvas and then slowly take the paintbrush, right? I like to use a large, a big one. And you're gonna cover the whole surface of the canvas. You can use big, long brush strokes. Make sure you cover the whole surface.
This went all the way over.
There you go. Some people like to leave some more gesso on the surface to give it a little more texture, but that's really up to you. Can you do something? See, you're painting my
I know. I was. Yeah, I know.
You can also go a different direction.
And a lot of people in my school also say that they like to put layers.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, people say they want to put layers.
And why they like doing that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. They say, Maya, do layers. I'm like, nah.
Well, some artists, after doing the gesso, like to give it a couple of coats of just different types of paint because it helps them blend the colors easier. But that's just also a matter of choice. So there you go. Easy peasy. It'll take you a few minutes, but you're gonna be grateful that you did it. Picking your paintbrushes might be a little bit daunting, so we're gonna share with you the 4 that we use the most. The flat brush has a square end with medium to long hairs. It's good for creating big bold strokes and filling white spaces. It is also very good for varnishing your painting after you finish painting it. The filbert is an oval-shaped brush with medium to long hairs. It's good for blending soft rounded edges like flower petals. This brush is a combination of the rounds and the flat because it can cover more space than the round, but it can also be used for details. The round brush is narrow with a sharply pointed tip. It's good for fine details and lines. getting into those delicate areas, spotting, as well as retouching. The angle brush is like the flat brush, but as the name says, with an angle hair at the end. It's good for curved strokes, filling corners, and hard to reach small areas. It can also be used to cover lots of space, similar to its cousin, the flat brush. When painting with acrylics, you're always going to have water handy at all times. We all know that after dipping the brush a few times in the water, it gets very dirty. So by having 3 separate containers, you can use the first one as your dirty one, where you dip the brush right after you use it. The second one serves as like an in-between one, maybe to clean smaller brushes or to finish off cleaning the ones that you put on the dirty water to begin with. Then the third one will be your clean one to use on your canvas. Always keep a small rag to dry the excess water from your brushes. To mix my acrylics, I use a traditional kidney-shaped palette. They are simple, light, and inexpensive. I also like that since it's made out of wood, it's sturdy enough to be mounted on my work table just as I want it. I just drilled a small hole and screwed it to a small rig articulating arm, and it was ready to go. What I like about this setup in particular is, number one, having it mounted like this, one less thing to have on top of my work table. The other thing is that since it's mounted on this articulating arm, I can move it freely to adapt to where I'm at the table. If I'm a little closer, I can get a little closer to where I'm working. And also, let's say I'm working with an acrylic that is a little more liquid than the viscous one. I don't want it to run over the palette. I can just level it off, and there you go. You can use it like this. You don't really have to do something like this, but to be honest, it's really easy to do and not too expensive. The palette itself is probably what, $3-4 maybe. Then the arm by small rig is, I think it's like $17. Then you just make a hole, get a couple of washers, and you're ready to go. The next thing we're going to be talking about is acrylic paints. There are so many varieties out there, and especially if you're starting, you don't really need to I wouldn't spend a lot of money buying expensive acrylics, because what you really need is something that you can manage, that gives you the colors that you need, and practice with the paint itself. Or to spend money, spend better on a good set of brushes than on acrylics. To me, it's a matter of taste, preference. There are certain things you need to know, and one of the things I'm going to show you today is the difference in viscosity or body within the different types of acrylics. We're going to discuss 3 here. This one is what's called a heavy body acrylic, and see, Maya's going to touch this. You see, it's very, very viscous, and you're going to need to really mix a lot of water with this one in order to be a little more manageable. And also, heavy body can be used to make certain areas of the paint a little more bright, or to give it the effect of what's called impasto, which is applying a lot of paint to an area to give it a little bit of texture.
Dad, I have a question.
Yes.
So when I was doing this to it, it felt like so sticky.
It is sticky. Acrylic paints are water-based, but they also have binding agents, which are made so the paint itself sticks to the canvas, so it doesn't run over. So that's why you feel that. The other thing, now that you mentioned the palette brush, you can also, some artists use it, see, to paint.
Wow.
To paint with it. You can paint certain areas with it.
Like big areas.
Yes, so it's something that you can always be experimenting. The second one here, I'm gonna put, it's kind of like a medium body, which you're gonna see it also has consistency, but it's a lot more
watery and
Yes.
liquidy.
And-
It's more good, like better,
Yes.
and not stickier.
and soft.
Yeah.
Right? Smooth. Okay. That's the one I use the most. It's sort of like in the medium bodies. And then
I
finally,
use it a lot.
yeah, we have this one, which is
The liquid.
liquid acrylic, which is very runny, very doesn't have a lot of viscosity to it. It's almost like a liquid paint. It's closer to tempera.
And it's also, if you get a towel and clean this off, it's sort of easier than like the heavy body and the medium body.
Absolutely. So there you go. I mean, there's a lot more. There's opacities, different characteristics of acrylics, but you know, when you're gonna start, just make it easy on yourself. Get medium body paint, colors that you like, and start painting. Acrylics tend to dry up quickly, so when you're working, especially with a lot of different colors, it might dry up on you. So what we do is
Grab a squirt bottle and fill it up with water, and then just squirt it like that a few times.
and that should keep the acrylic paint nice and moist and ready to use. One thing that we have to be aware of, even though acrylics are good to be mixed with water, don't mix it too much, because a lot of water mixed with the acrylics, it could affect the binding agent, and you might find that it becomes a little runny and it doesn't stick that well to the canvas. So always be wary how much water you mix with it. The last tip is going to be sketching. Why do I tell you to sketch before you paint?
Because when you have your idea, you don't really have to start with the paint, because sometimes it gets all messy and sometimes there's some bumps or stuff like that. So you use pencil and you sketch what you want your drawing to be, so then it's easier because you can outline it with your paint. And maybe when it dries, you can use Sharpie to go over the outlines.
Yes, exactly. And then that way you're going to save yourself time and frustration, because there's nothing worse than to put the canvas down, grab the paintbrush, and then you don't know what to paint, and then you're going to start winging it, and then maybe you're not going to be happy with the outcome. I'm not saying that you cannot do it that way. A lot of artists do, but for me, the experience tells me that you at the very least do a very rough idea of what you want to put into the canvas. That way, when you get your paint ready, your canvas, prime it, right? You're ready to paint.
So I have a question, Dad.
Yes.
So it's like one of our videos, doodling. It's like when sometimes you have frustration, sometimes you don't know what to do, sometimes you don't have enough time to think. So then it's just like doodling.
Exactly. And if you're interested in knowing the benefits of doodling, we have a video. I'm going to link it up here. You can watch it after this one. And like Maya says, get some ideas. And hopefully you are going to have a very, very fun time painting. We hope our tips are going to make your experience with acrylics a lot easier and fun. And if you did enjoy it, please leave us a like.
And remember to punch that subscribe button and the little bell to get a notification when our next video is about to come out.
See you next time.
Bye!